Hi, I'm Neil and I'm going to show you how to make a Frank, little Frank, even a teeny tiny Frank head. I notice there's been a lot of people asking on thing about how to start making one. I'm not the world's greatest authority on it, but I've made a few and the results are pretty good, so I thought for beginners I can give you the benefit of my experience and failures, and you can have a go yourself. So this one I made a couple of years ago and it's starting to look a little battered and worn now. As Chris Seavey found out when he was being Frank, if you get a papier mache head and then put it on your head for any period of time, your hot wet breath turns it back into papier mache again. All I've done with this is standing timpily waving at marathon runners as they go by, and it soon starts to almost like feel like it's collapsing back in again. So how Chris did an hour-long plus show in it, singing and prancing about, I think is incredible. So yeah, this has started to sort of collapse in a little. It's been in the sort of a damp garage, but you know, it's still holds up pretty well, and if you photograph it from a bit of a distance, nobody really spots all the little imperfections. So to make one, you're going to need to start with a beach ball, which I'm confident with this. As I say, having been to the Timperley statue and sort of checked the proportions of a real Frank head, I'm pretty confident that this is a correct one. This is a Wilko beach ball from the famous high street stores. What you want to do is start off, you inflate your beach ball and keep the inflation valve at the bottom because you're going to need that later on. Then pop it in something, that's just a roll of tape there, put it in something like that, a bowl, that while you're papier mashing it, it's less likely to start rolling around the table and making a mess. So inflate your beach ball, put it in something, then you want to wrap the beach ball in cling wrap. Otherwise you will end up gluing all of your papier mache to the beach ball and then trying to separate that. It is going to be a real pain. So your papier mache, there's different ways people go about this. People swear by PVA, watered down PVA newspaper. I have always done wallpaper paste, so I've mixed it from a powder and mixed it to the highest concentration, so the least water to powder ratio that's on the packet, to get the strongest version. So once you've got your cling wrap beach ball, you get your bowl, washing up bowl, whatever, full of your wallpaper paste, PVA, whatever you want to do, and start tearing off newsprint and putting it on. A friend, his advice on papier mache was pieces no bigger than a rich tea biscuit, and I would agree. As you obviously start applying this, you get more impatient and start tearing off bigger bits of paper. But obviously, because you're putting a flat piece of paper over something constantly curved, it's always going to wrinkle and fold. So the bigger the piece, the bigger the wrinkles are going to be as it tries to fit around the curve, and the end result will look a real wrinkly mess when it dries. So keep your patience, small pieces, and start to papier mache all around the ball. You're going to want to do this in stages. You don't want to just sit there hour after hour plonking wet soggy paper on this and think, well, I'll finish it in one sitting, because eventually it will just get so wet and so heavy it will just pull itself apart and fall to pieces, sort of collapse under its own weight. So I would say small pieces of paper all the way over, leaving a gap at the bottom, because remember that you can leave a gap there because that's where your head's going to be going in. It's better to leave the gap smaller rather than larger, because you can always snip some off with scissors later, whereas if you realise the head hole is way too big, it's harder then to add it on. So yeah, couple of layers of papier mache, walk away, let that dry, come back the next day, and another couple of layers, walk away. It's a long and laborious process. When I made my first Frank head, I think I started it on the Friday, thinking I'd be on Facebook on the Sunday showing it off. That wasn't the case. It took me 3 weeks. So be prepared that it's going to take some time, and it's a laborious process. Easier done in the summer when the temperatures are warmer and you can leave it in the garden and let it air dry. It's going to dry a lot quicker. Have a hairdryer handy. If you've got an oven, no, actually I say an oven's big enough, but if you've got the beach ball in there, you can do that later. Scratch that. You can just keep adding and adding and adding, and you want to get it so it's nice and sort of hard, and think as you do it, you sort of think, oh, I'm a bit bored of this now, 2 layers will be fine. You'll kick yourself later at the things I'm going to show you we need to do with it once it starts to, say, collapse and things like that, because it's so thin. So over the course of maybe a week, keep on adding and get a nice sort of dried thick layer of papier mâché all the way round. Now, the most important bit, and the bit people miss a lot of the time, is that a proper Frank Sidebottom head is not a ball. It is not a perfect sphere. If you look at this, you can see there's that oval there, and it's not just because the bottom's missing. It is oval shaped. So if you are just making something to, say, for a fancy dress party, you're going to wear it once and throw it in the bin, by all means you can just do a ball, decorate it. People will say, well, that's Frank Sidebottom. If you want to go at it properly, you're going to need to turn the ball into an oval. So once you've got your nice rock hard papier mâché ball, you then turn it around, and I said about keeping the inflation valve accessible. You then pull that out, deflate the beach ball, and then pull that out of the head hole, and then you'll have your hopefully nice and solid papier mâché ball. Then you need to cut the ball all the way down the middle, all the way across, like so. That way you'll have two half spheres. You then reinflate your beach ball, pop that back onto your little stand, and this is the hard bit. So you then put it back onto the beach ball on your 2 halves, but you're leaving a gap, I don't know, 2.5 inches wide, something like that, to get this elongated sort of oval shape. So this becomes difficult now, because as you were before, you were popping all your papier mâché on a ball and it was nicely supported by the ball. Now it isn't so much. So you can put the halves on, use some of your paper tape, there's another reason I had that, to hold the 2 halves onto the ball with the gap. And it's not going to fit all the way around, because now we're sort of stretching it out. So tape it on and support it as best you can with the gap in the middle. You then need to add more papier mâché to bridge this gap. So we're papier mâchéing a sort of an area like this. It's difficult. Number one, you've got to sort of make the join look natural. I think the first one I did was not as good as this one, and that you could see a sort of a ridge down the middle. The other thing is that, as I say, you've got an unsupported papier mâché thing that you then start getting wet again. And of course, once you start getting papier mâché wet, as I mentioned, it starts to collapse again, and it will start to deform and lose its shape. What it's best to have is the hairdryer handy to quickly dry these things, because I've sort of done it, put a load of papier mâché all over the join, you walk away, you come back half an hour later and it's all caved in on itself. So paper, hairdryer. Don't forget the inside is not visible, so you can always use some card as well on the inside. Once you've got a bit of structure to it, start to add some thin card on the inside to give it some structure. That'll help as well. Then once you've then papier mache'd around the whole thing, you can then once again deflate the beach ball, pull it out, and you should have something that will then resemble this oval shape. Turn it around like so. I'm not distracted by the face. You'll have something like that there. We need to make a head hole. As I say, we've left a gap anyway where the balloon is, but you'll probably need to adjust this by getting some scissors out. You can see that's a little deformed. Getting some scissors out and making a head hole so you can just comfortably get it over the top of your head and over your ears, and keep it to a minimum of that. The hair, I use kitchen towel on the first couple of layers in the papier mache mix. That way the hair sort of stands a bit proud of the rest of the thing, so it doesn't just look painted on, and the sideburns, these have gone a little flat over the years, but that way if you use a thicker towel, the hair and sideburns stand prouder than the rest of their head, so it looks like a proper Frank head and looks like real hair. So I put kitchen towel on and then covered it with a final layer of paper, because often kitchen towel is textured with little bumps and patterns and flowers in it, and that'll show through when you paint it. So put your put a final layer of paper on it. Ears are just cardboard, so draw one ear, then draw around that other ear onto the cardboard and cut it out. That way you've not got two different sized and shaped ears. So these were just an ear shape with just an extra little bit sticking out that I could fold under and then glue on, and then papier mache over the join here where the cardboard ear joins the head. Papier mache over that. The mouth, again, is just a draw that lip shape onto a bit of thick card, and then just glue it on there. And I think, later on, not at that sign, but then you can then also cut a mouth hole as well. The nose, obviously, it stands proud of the head. It's not just painted on. A triangle of card, fold it in. So you've gone from a triangle to a folded thing to a point, and again, similar to the ears, you can use a bit of tape, bit of papery tape, to hold that on to the thing, and then papier mache over the joins so it all blends in. Eyebrows, same as the mouth. 2 eyebrows, make sure they're identical, say drawing around one, and that they also then stand proud of the head as well. So they are the features. When it comes to the eyes, you'll have to make a decision over whether you're going to want to look out of it or not. This one, well, if I start from the beginning, when I decorated it, I painted the eyes on in white acrylic paint, then cut a large hole in through the papier mache. The iris's pupils here, they're made from a separate piece of paper, so I painted those on and added those on after. The pupils are tights or stockings, so black tights or stockings, and in a sort of a bank rubber way, when they're stretched a little, you can see through that. So, I mean, there it looks perfectly jet black there, but when you put it on, it gives you a limited field of vision. I'm not quite sure how Chris did his eyes. I could imagine it would be in a similar way, but your vision's pretty limited. If it's nice and bright and things are bright colours, you can see through the stocking and see it okay. If things are a bit dark, it gets a bit murkier. So so it's a piece of paper, a circle of black stocking underneath, and then I just painted that blue and then just did a little bit of sort of streaking on there. And the little cutaway for the eye is just an extra bit of paper stuck on the top. With decorating, I always use these tubes of acrylic paint that you can buy fairly cheaply. If you can buy a standard flesh tone in any of these artists' acrylics, which is perfect for that. So we've got obviously everything in flesh, black for the hair, a reddish colour for the lips, and then we've got a blue and sort of white for the eyes. So you don't need an awful lot of colours for it. One of the things when you're making it, reminding me looking at the lips, is when you're modelling this on a real Frank head, you might find there is not one uniform Frank head that Chris had. I'm convinced he had seeing heads and non-seeing heads because the irises get bigger and smaller on different heads in different pictures. So I think he had Frank heads with enormous irises to help him see out, and other ones have got tiny pupils that when he was only wearing it for, say, a photo shoot and he didn't need to actually do anything. That's my theory. Obviously, whilst you're putting the features together, have a picture of Frank there. Look at the proportions. A lot of people, and I know I did it on my first head and I did it on this one, is that a lot of people make their eyes too small because the eyes are enormous. The best thing is to notice that the sort of where the eyes finish in relation to the nose, the gap between the sort of eyes and the side, them sort of things. Look for the distances across the head to try and get the proportions of the features right. But as I say, you might find there's differences between real Frank Sidebottom heads. So there's acrylic paint. The final step is, if I hold that, you can see inside there's a little sort of cardboard crown. So you make yourself, like a sort of Christmas cracker party hat, a cardboard crown to fit nice and snug around your head, like so, and then have extra sort of flaps on it and glue those flaps onto the inside of the head. That way, when you are wearing it and you turn your head, the head turns with it. If you don't have that, it'll sort of flop forward backwards on your head, and obviously you can turn your head around and it always just stays still. So that's a sort of a little finishing feature, and that works quite well. And that's it for a Frank head. I've summed it up quite quickly. Bear in mind, all of that waiting for papier mache to dry, paint to dry, will take you a good while. So take your time with it and enjoy it. Secondly, we've got a little Frank. It's exactly the same procedure in terms of papier mache, but I don't need to, obviously, little Frank doesn't need to see because he's cardboard, so all of the eye thing I just painted directly on, and I didn't bother with getting the texture for the hair. Everything is just painted on. Same procedure for the ears and the nose, just bits of folded cardboard and paint everything else on. I've always used a party balloon, a common or garden party balloon, for making a little Frank head, and that has always worked well, and I think the proportions are right. The body, obviously, he's cardboard, as everybody knows, and then I put something on the back. This has got like a what's it called, cling wrap tube that goes inside his head. I stuff his head with newspaper, you can see that, so that then the thing's got something to sort of hold on to there. So you can make little Frank bodies in whatever format you wish. Finally, there's teeny tiny Franks, which you may have seen. I've done little videos and photo shoot things with them and put them on the Frank Sidebottom group, so you may have spotted those before. This is an action man, a 12-inch tall action man. He's wearing action man clothes. You can also get there was an awful lot of figures there for 12-inch tall action things. The clothes are all interchangeable. Obviously, the most important thing is the head. I tried to start with things like a ping pong ball in the same thing. It was too small, it didn't work. These are capsules. They're known in Japan as gashapons. So you've seen them most of the time at motorway services. A machine, you put your quid in, turn the handle, and a thing pops out in a little capsule, like a Kinder Surprise thing with a toy in it or something. You pull the two halves apart. That is what that is. So it's the plastic capsule, head hole so it can go on, and then I just paint the features on, stick the ears on, like so. And there is there's Elvis Frank, and that's Thunderbird's Freddie Mercury. All his outfits coming off. There we go. And that's that. I think I've covered everything. Any questions, or if I've left out any sort of glaring things, please comment below, ask me questions. More than happy to answer and help you along. Thank you for watching.